This is Victoria, an engineering student knowing the most in education. Today, we are at the fourth philosophy of education, Neo-behaviorism. So as usual, follow me, the same routine. Firstly, dismantle it, then find inspiration from it. From view of education, Neo-behaviorism says, there is nothing mysterious about the process of learning and thinking. Watson believed that there was no mental element in the human psyche. In his view, sensation is a discriminatory response. Emotion is a visceral response. And thought, in fact, is an implicit activity of the muscles. Nothing different from any other outward muscular activity. So he advocated the natural science of psychology, suggesting that psychology should abandon all the unobservable, subjective components, like consciousness, which is a major thesis of psychological research in the past. An object of psychology should therefore be the observable behavior. For view of purpose, Neo-behaviorism is very simple and brutal, because its main object of study is behavior, not the internal mechanisms of behavior. That is, if I see a change in your behavior, whatever stimulates or motivates you, all means my education is working. Like what we have said before, look at behavior, use it as a criterion, make an assessment, see what you can see, control what you can control. For the idea of curriculum, just because Neo-behaviorism raised that the most valuable aspect of education is the ability to behave. It focuses on whether students' knowledge can be applied and transferred. It also correspondingly pioneered procedural teaching as the idea of teaching, where students' behaviors are under the design and control of the teacher. Like this. Different strategies are implemented according to the different outcomes achieved by students at different stages. To put it simply, in relation to Bloom's theory of classification of educational objectives, if you know it, go to comprehension. If you comprehend it, practice application. If you're familiar with application, try analysis. If you're not familiar, go back to comprehension. The whole process is very clear. Like a mold, any raw material can be thrown in and get out as standardized products, with different route and time. The most distinctive feature of Neo-behaviorism is scientific, which advocates the application of the rigorous method to the study of human behavior. The core is the procedure, stimulus, response, evaluation. Skinner was critical of the lack of effective reinforcement to control and shape student behavior in American educational practice at the time. So he proposed procedural teaching that highlighted the scientific measurement in student behavior changes. And he required educators to be clear and specific about the behavioral purpose of each lesson, and the criteria for measuring and checking the effectiveness of learning. After learning this philosophy, the first word that popped into my head is process assessment. Process assessment is the management of the process, not simply a reflection of homework and tests, but a record of the whole learning process, including attitudes, efforts, class performance, listening, expression, homework, independent learning, cooperation, and so on. In this way, the learning process is reflected in a very visual and objective way. Assessment is a guide. The feature that is evaluated will gradually grow in students' mind. Whatever you want to develop in your students, just increase the process assessment about that. Li Xigui, the principal of Beijing National Day School, expressed the view that managing student learning is not an abstract concept, but should be concrete enough during the learning process. If we teachers are very process-oriented and detail-oriented, students will also be process-oriented and detail-oriented. For example, to capture the core issues for assessment, every subject should provide detailed assessment indicators for the whole learning process, such as reading, note-taking, discussion, asking questions. We teachers should determine the weighting given to each item according to developmental needs and adjust them whenever necessary, with detailed suggestions and attention in the notes. At the beginning of the school year, teachers post the criteria in the classroom so that students know them by heart and are reminded to do them. The assessment perspective and awareness is embedded throughout the student's learning process. And we teacher continually creates a learning environment that is conducive to student performance and active participation, allowing students to give authentic expression to their state and level of learning, and thus gain valuable assessment information. Until now, I don't know what you think about it, the scientific and powerful methods. But I have a question. Is there a restriction for it to implement? It is trying to achieve personalized teaching and learning, but it is really personalized when everyone is thrown into an identical process. It is really proper to use external stimuli instead of internal drives to motivate students. Elite education was once a hit, which takes children's development very seriously and invests a lot of money to make explicit designs through research. For example, kids should learn to play the piano during the period when their hearings are most sensitive. Then violin in a few years later when their desires to express become stronger. However, is the child still exposed to real life in such a carefully designed and field education, or just in Truman's world? We should admit that this kind of education will lead to a highly uniform standard. But is this standard way of living really the only answer to life? I remember when I was talking about essentialism, I said we need to train the independence of students. For now, it also makes sense. Being evaluated is quite passive. But what if the evaluation criteria are not designed by us, but by themselves? I have read about the case of the expert learner. To describe in one word, they are awake. They never allow any actions to happen unconsciously, and can always find something valuable in every experience. Compared to putting students into a program, is it more important for them to be able to reflect on themselves? They, as the one who knows themselves best, set up their own plans and monitor themselves when implementing it. We teachers constantly guide them to find the reasons behind it according to their behavior, to maximize the results to meet their expectations. Okay, for now, thank you so much for watching. Look forward to your ideas and comments. If you like it, please subscribe it. See you in the next video. Bye bye!